Welcome to Velvet Legends. It's the show where we point the spotlight on selected entertainment professionals and tell you how we create art. Our legend today was 6 years old when he started his dance education and graduated 11 years later in Toronto, Canada. From there on, the 17-year-old Italian dancer started his impressive career. Just a few examples of professional engagements were at the San Francisco Ballet, the English National, Birmingham Royal and the Ventura Dance Companies, and many more. 1995, with the age of 21, he started also his choreographing career. He's looking back at performances in over 100 countries, got 11 honors and awards, and did about 60 choreographies. Today he is running his own dance company, and we will find out in detail how he creates art. He once said, "You don't have to be beautiful to be understood or rich and famous to be good." The title, Velvet Legend, suits him just fine. Greetings and welcome to the show, Gaetano Posterino.
Hi, Paul. Thank you very much for having me here, first of all. And yeah, very pleased to have this conversation with you.
Dead or alive, name 3 people that you would like to meet.
Well, the first one would probably be Louis Armstrong. And I would just get in my way the boot, which he stepped for the first time on the moon. That would be probably the first person I would like to meet. The rest... I would have met Sean Connery, but he's not there anymore. I could go on his grave and pray, but I don't do that. And I don't know, a third person probably would be Angela Merkel. Yes, because I live in Germany, so I suppose that I'm very involved in all this.
If you could be an expert on anything you can choose, you wake up tomorrow and suddenly you are an expert in that field, what would that be?
I think it would be an astronaut. As a child, I always dreamed to fly around the sky, and I was just building dragons, with threads, and they flew away 100 meters from me in the sky. So I was always fascinated through the universe, and as a child, I said to my mom, I'm going to be an astronaut, and she said, no, you stay here. And then something happened in between 5 and 7, and then I changed my mind, so I want them to be a dancer.
Very well. You make people fly now, it's fine.
I suppose, yeah, with their fantasy, I hope anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, as a communicator for arts, I suppose that I do this, like I talk to a public, and then I try to transmit emotions through my dancers, of course, through the work, and through the whole setup, the stage setup, lights, what concerns the technical environment. This is even very important, and it goes the same way, like choreographer and technical department, it's working like in one hand together. If not, it would not be possible to do all this.
Interesting. Very, very true. This is also one part of why we are building this community. It is to raise awareness within the entertainment industry. Because
Absolutely.
I also felt like I've been a stage technician for the last 21 years, and I felt like it got, I don't know, we drifted apart kind of, it was just the technicians doing their thing, the dancers doing their thing, they didn't know anymore what were the other people doing actually.
Sometimes it might happen that you're so concentrated and focused on your own channel that then you forget that behind you there is a staff supporting you anytime. But usually when you are an artist and you have to go on stage and present your work, you're very worried about your person, and this is like you live like in a crystal ball as long as you dance active on stage, because it takes 200% of your energy during the whole day, starting with class rehearsal and going in the evening on stage, and 4-5 times a week. So this is always, we give for granted that the technicians are there, but I never did, because I always thought as a choreographer already by an early age that without those people, all my dreams would not be possible to realize on stage. So people need fantasy, but there have a reality that has to run to make people understand that this fantasy world comes from hard work, and it comes from getting together, from cooperating each other. This is the real secret of chemical, and want to bring a product on stage, because in the end we talk about a product. right?
True.
This is art, but it's well, a product that people sees on the media and on social networking.
Sure.
So we're always like kind of put it in a box. Oh, okay, this is this kind of work now, but if you really go behind there, this is not only the dancers and the choreographer, but there is an entire world that should be explained. But yeah.
My point exactly. Yeah. Glad that we have you on board to, yeah, bring up some cases. Back in your dancing days, when you started out, or when you worked in all these big houses, did you had something like a ritual before the curtain opens? That very moment.
Well, the adrenaline that runs through your body is just amazing because you don't feel much anymore. It's just pure, yeah, energy that goes. You know, you even don't feel the body because the adrenaline is really Lampenfieber. You say in Germany, you know,
Stage fright.
stage fright, yeah. And this is basically, you know, the before the curtains goes up. Really important that it must be this moment. If it's not happening, then something is different, or you have to find it out another way. How you gonna bring it up on stage for 1.5 hours, or how you gonna entertain the public if you don't believe in what you're doing? So it's all about this. And you know, I was a leprechaun, then I became a leprechaun. I was a Ben in Swan Lake, or I did so many other roles from very important choreographers. But and then I changed, and there was a metamorphose every time. So, and yeah, I mean, this is what is about the choreographers as well, to try to take it out, the best of, let's say, human material. To say it sounds raspy and kind of, but in the end, you know, I even have a target with those people when I go on stage, and my target is to communicate.
Wonderful. We did a little background search on your career, and you know, I thought it's always like too obvious to pick the first one, but we took the second one, and we stumbled upon the 1999 frames from the ballet in Istanbul. What was that show about?
There was a very, very insider concept about what's the reality in this part of the world, and basically trying to have a reflection on our European society. And there I find that I was very different, the way people just behave, the way they start their day, they have different tradition. And I was in Turkey twice, and the first time I was in holiday, and the second time through the Peter Schaufuss Ballet from Denmark. I was called as a choreographer there. And then I could really leave Istanbul for 10 days and to see all what's going on. And for me, frame was how women were put it in a box. So sometimes it was an unhappy situation to see how women were treated. And this is, that you know, I want to probably say, but not too much about it, because I would go in a very political way. And
Sure.
then if you start to rebel, you know, that moment was very strong, 1999,
Yeah.
and to say that out. So I tried to get inspired by the way of life that they're running down there, and that was a very spontaneous, so very oriental, exotic.
Sure,
Yeah,
of course.
and that was something that I didn't know, and then fascinated me totally.
And we still have problems with that, saying that out sometimes, you know.
Yes, we do actually. Do you want to talk about that? This is a very different direction if we start to talk about this, because sure, there is a lot to say.
Yeah.
And we don't have to even now turn around and say that we are not having a pandemic here, because we do. And through all this, we start to live again. We start to try to put the puzzle that we got lost in the last 2 years, and it is difficult. It's not impossible, but it's really difficult to put all this, to gap these puzzles together and to show this picture again the way it was. Is missing something there.
Sure.
And that's what we have to work on it right now. You know, try to go through what we've got offered, and there is not much choice sometimes, but then you can always talk it out. Sometimes you don't need to dance to talk it out. You just need to talk.
Yeah.
what we're doing now.
Sometimes it's that easy.
And you
yeah.
say that is something that it's not going well, actually, especially with our branch, what is concerning theater and what is concerning freelance company and even, you know, like freelance choreographers, or because we have got chopped it out. And you know, I spend just one more word about this. I mean, the offer for me were very varied. I had several offers through Europe to create as well as register, because I put in opera on stage, like also I did in Palermo, I did in Catania, and then I did in Dresden at the Semper Opera. So it was for me important, you know, to have a kind of platforms, and all those platforms, they're connected through bridges, you know, and that's the way it works in our branch, basically. And all this has just gone
Wiped away,
in a short time, and you know, nobody realized what was happening, and we kept going on, and now after such a long time, we are tired to, you know, to go with the people, you know, especially if you did certain things before what they tell you to do. So you should be able to start your life not the way it was, because it will never be the way it was.
Yeah.
It is a big change, but we have to, you know, you have to kind of go through this.
True.
There is no other way, and trying to get the best out of it. This
Yeah.
is what I suppose, and there is so much to talk about it. What happened, you know, that sometimes we got lost in a big universe because you don't know anymore where you have to start. So, and the actual situation that, you know, we're going through a fourth pandemic, and we'll see what's happening.
Tell us about your personal transition from a dancer to a choreographer. You know, I'm saying this because maybe there are also, for sure, other dancers out there that maybe also want to do the transition, and maybe there can be a first-hand experience.
Well, the transition is, I mean, every transition is personal, is individual. You know, there is, it cannot be that a choreographer has the same pattern than another one. At least if you're in the same house and you got given the same chances to create for a big stage. But the transition is that I think that you must be born choreographer. Like, I remember myself dancing on the beach or at the house of my grandmother, putting all the furnitures away already at the age of 7 and just inventing steps. Even I was starting to go to ballet school then at the time, because the first year was like kind of, I could not say I was going to the ballet school. It's a little bit like, you know, one of those stories that the parents don't want you to go to the ballet school. If not, it's not going to be good for you. And then my neighbor, she just got me with her daughter to this ballet school, and then they gave me basically everything, ballet shoes, they gave me the clothes, and a bag. So my mom didn't know, my dad didn't know. And so I did this for a couple of months, always saying that I was doing my own works to the neighbor, but she was taking me to the ballet school. And then when they found it out in the end, it was a disaster, because
Of course.
they shot me in the house for 2 months. I couldn't go nowhere, and somebody threw my ballet stuffs in the bin and like, forget it. And then, you know, this ballet directress came back to our house and then really tried to convince my mom that it would be a shame if I would not dance, because I had a talent for it. And then they started slowly but surely, but it was a very hard starting. Very hard.
Oh, I can see that, yeah. Was it hard for you then to follow other choreographies when you already at this early stage had your own vision of movement? Was it sometimes that you had to fight against that?
Yeah, that's a little bit like a kind of a monster where you know, it wakes up every day and tells you, okay, maybe you can, but not that it looks like, and then you have to find your own way, and then you have to go through these stages and to suffer as well a little bit, and to cry or to feel emotionally unstable or crazy in the range. This is really important that you go through these emotional stages. At least this is the way it works for me. It's always a fight, and then you're kind of there, and then you're totally down after a minute, and then you think you're not gonna manage. So you always manage in the end, because all these components are there. Because, you know, being prudent. It's like the anti-camera from, um, from being patient as well. And then you learn through all this, kind of taking in your time in the studio alone, and then trying to reach for a new dancing vocabulary. And what it looks the weirdest now on myself, you have to transmit to your dancers and to give them an idea why they're doing this. It's not only about do this. It's not gymnastic.
Yeah,
I
not copying movements.
No,
There's a story behind
of course, it influeed me a lot. The way of other choreographers, they were. I mean, I took a lot from them as well. That's what I'm today. It's probably because I had the chance and the privilege to work with them, because I was in big houses where they just got invited and we could do all these beautiful works. And then you learn a lot. And you learn a lot as well by being punished sometimes. And you punish yourself as well for not having done this at the right time, at the right place. And this is all kind of, it's like a fairy that goes, and she has like a veil. And you have to catch it. This is kind of the way it looks like. And if you don't catch it, then this moment is gone. And you have to be there. Sometimes you don't know what is happening, but then it's happening.
You can only hope that the veil is really long.
Yeah, it must be long, and you have got to go very, very fast legs, like,
True.
No, you need to give gas in this short amount of time that you're a dancer. Then it's not very long time disposal. It's kind of a limited time, because you can go until 40, maybe 42, but then the body or your bones starts to hurt, because it is a very extreme turnout. This is not a natural way of being.
Yeah.
We have to turn everything out. We were born closed. We have to open. Is everything, like kind of giving a pressure to your articulations. And in a certain age, you have to say, okay, that was it, and now we concentrate on choreography, but we don't go on stage.
True.
My last performance was in 2018 with the company. And I was, I don't say my age, but I was not young anymore. Yeah.
How long does it take from the initial thought of a choreography, of a certain type of movement, to process that basically and bring it on the stage through someone,
You process with the dancers. I mean, first what I realized that sometimes I know that I have to do a block of 10 minutes today because time is running and the hell is burning behind you. That's the way it is. I work very good under pressure, actually, then when I have to go. When there is something going like pushy, then I'm more busy into my things. And so I can go with my company 10 minutes a day of choreography. Is a lot of material, is a lot of moments there. But if I am under pressure, my dancers, they're with me, and then we do it together, because I dance with them all day. I don't sit on a chair, but I show them what it's supposed to be 300-400 times if it's needed, but they don't need that much, because they're I need maybe once, twice, and then you got it already. And so you process with, it's a working process.
Talking about your dancers, how do you pick them?
They must have skills, this for sure. I'm not picking the dancers just because of their energy. For that as well, I mean, but it is a mix of stage experience and a mix of energy that comes from them, and a mix of what background. The background is very important. I mean, I pick up my dancers because they all have a background of classical dancers, for example, but then I twist and I break them in the studio that they look totally like, okay, but you can see that the classical education helps a lot to go through the whole situation, which is about then contemporary, neoclassical, modern, or totally dance theater, or how you say, like Ausdruckbewegung. Yeah, it's all things that you have to experience around having a classical ballet education. And all my dancers, they come from big institutions of ballet, and then they want all of a sudden try new ways, experience new stuffs, because with ballet, it's, not very expanded fantasy. You have a kind of ballet repertoire, so is tutu and ballet shoes, and
True.
it goes very long until then you decide to try new ways, and then there come the choreographer that maybe might be very interesting for you at the moment, and you try new ways and you try to explore more. And, this is basically the way it happens, like wanting to. No?
I saw the clip of the dance movie Kronos. We saw an installation with where it was raining salt and like a nice scenography.
Yes.
My question here is, if you had no budget issues at all, what technicality would you implement in your shows?
Well, most of the time when I don't have money to produce, or not to produce, when I don't have money to put the setup on stage, or the stage setup, then I use nature. So I go into the nature and then I let myself help from her or from him or from it.
Yeah.
You know, to go through this. And then I did a lot of nature filming sessions that they were then reproduced on stage through a screen. And like in my Mondo Paradiso, for example, that was a production I did in 2019. Yes, it was in March. And with the company, so we made you know, the video is always helping a lot to put yourself in another fantasy, parallel what is happening on stage. So I don't know if I answered to your question right now.
Yeah, well, so you would go for projections then in general, maybe some holographic, you know,
yes,
really.
right. So I would go just using nature for sure, or using a very clear rotten room in the back. It's like a junkyard, because you find a lot of junkyards everywhere. And or in a backyard, for example, with a wall where it's written something like messaging people that you're here right now and this is happening to you and why you're doing here right now, because you want to give a message. Okay, so it's all about trying to, like we're doing now. You know, we exchanging. You know, it's an exchange.
Yeah,
you ask me a question, I answer to these questions the way I can do, and then you take what you need.
Yeah, true,
right.
True,
So
of course. I was lucky enough to see some of your pieces. I think there were two.
Thank you. Okay.
For me, as an outstander, because I'm not really into the dance field. I'm a stage technician, and my girlfriend's a dancer, so that's why I have a little connection there. But still,
I know her.
But for sure, what I found amazing in your pieces, also through the language of the dancers, that all the movements, they were so much more fluent than with other pieces. You know, it always felt like there are no edges at all. Is that something that you are instructing on purpose, or is there like a deeper meaning behind it?
Well, I don't know which piece you mean. You mean probably Mondo Paradiso? Or
that one, yeah.
That one. I know that was, even for me, kind of going through stages, because, you know, talking about plastic on Earth and like islands of plastic in the ocean, and about the pollution what we're going through right now as well, and already so in an early stage, which talk about 2019. And I think I was probably one of the first production in Germany talking about this concept, and like, you know, where we're gonna go if we keep producing plastic so much, if we keep burning fossils so much, and if we don't change in an electric world that really doesn't create pollution and CO2. Yeah, that was basically what came out every day was a fight. I said, okay, I'm not gonna express all this through dance, you know, and by the end came just in a spontaneous way, just trying to not put myself in a box, not to think what people would love to see, but what I would love to express through every piece I do. So there was a very different, how you say, entourage of new movements, or like my dancers up inspired me that much in a way that I was always going through the whole day different stages and enjoying them, or sometimes not very much, sometimes kind of then you have to learn to let it go, because then you create so much. And then that was the hardest point for me, to say, okay, now guys, I'm sorry, but this, it's not happening anymore. It doesn't make any sense to me. I have to have a red thread that brings me through the whole piece. So if I want to communicate, I have to go that way. And that's
True.
what worked so well with them, because they understood from the beginning, and they just let it themselves go into this. And but talking about the movement was for me as well a very yeah, it's kind of a surprise probably again. Every time I create, but my movement can be kind of sloppy, dirty, or very clear, clean, or reflecting a bit the ballet world, because this is even where I come from.
True.
And
how you pick your dancers.
Of course, with those skills, but as well, people that they have to be very open for anything. Like I have even naked scenes on stage, which probably provoked sometimes the reaction of people. But this is exactly what we're talking about. You know, put it up a mask, and like dressing up, and this is like, you know, I'm not used to dress up, and well, today I'm dressed up for you, but I don't used to dress up for nobody anymore. And that this is the basic philosophy of then being together in a studio with people and creating such a work. That and then you go like, okay, right, that's, I leave it raw that way. I'm not refining anything. That's the way it's gonna be presented, and it works. Because you feel that you have to do this now, and you don't care if people likes it or not. You just do it. Yeah.
Was there a time where you wanted to give up, where you lost your passion, and you thought like, this is one of these dark days where you just, why am I doing this?
Well, I had some dark days, definitely many dark days, but then I saw at the end of the tunnel always the light, which sometimes was unreachable, or it took very long to get there. Dark days, I was not just dancing and choreographing during my days. And my live stream, I was finishing the university. I have a certificate for a translator, and so I speak 7 languages. That's why we're talking English now and not Italian. And I worked as well in in the textile branch for a couple of years. And textile, I mean like transporting, not myself, but in the logistics.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in my bureau, and I was watching outside my bureau for 1.5 years. Well, I had a very important position. I studied very hard for it. And then in the end, theater called me back again. It was like I had so many offers again in once from big houses. One of those was Semperoper Dresden, where I worked already 4 times in 4 years, 5 years. That's a lot. So I've been called already every year to go back.
Okay.
And then there I said, okay, I think that was a nice experience. I didn't need it anymore. And then I took it, what made me very happy again. Because sometimes we have to go through life and we have to do things that we don't like to do. But, we hope always that it's coming then a time that you can do again what you love it, and you can make from this your work. And, if you transform your passion in your work, is the best thing can happen.
Yeah.
And this is what I basically, what I'm into it since many years already again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I am also hearing out of this now. So basically, when you have like a dark moment, or you are feeling like the passion is gone, take a step back, do something else, and then it might come back in a natural way.
That's what happened. I mean, the passion was always there. The point is that I decided then to take a different way, different direction, because I know my life. Just I made a living of it, so I live from art, and this is my. Basically, since I started as a child and to work, that I didn't know any other job. That was just theater. That was my house. And I lived in there, and I loved it. And then things changed. and then you have to kind of adapt yourself as well to the situation very often. And after living in many parts of the world, then you decide that you have to settle up somewhere, and you have to settle up your work, and you don't pick up the city, but it comes spontaneously. I lived in Frankfurt many years, and then I was in Wiesbaden, and then now I'm in Munich because we are here in Munich now.
Yeah.
And since 2014, so it's been now 7 years. I live in a new town, and so you have to just start every time from zero, and to build puzzles around you. Every time you leave a place, you take something with you to build it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the experience is what tells.
This is how we
right?
grow as persons
Yes.
and as artists, especially.
Of course.
Yeah. What were the 3 most influential persons in your life?
Ooh, that's a question. Well, let's say, well, as a child, definitely my mom, because she's an amazing character. And yeah.
Even when she forbid their first dancing career.
Yes, but I think that she wanted to try out if I really was ready to go for this. And that's why she put me on a hard proof to say, okay, you really want this? Okay, if you want it, then now you
better do something.
Yeah, if not, you do it, or she just want to find it out if it was really my passion. And then by the end, she had to realize that it was. And that was the first person, then my dad. My dad is an amazing person. He's the quiet, the wisdom guy. Yeah, I think what I am today is a lot from him as well.
Okay.
Just being kind of with your feet on the ground, but trying to dream as well.
Okay.
And then a third person was my mentor, the guy that brought me up the stage. And it was a Bulgarian teacher called Ivan Tsanov, and he's not alive anymore, unfortunately. He died with leukemia. Or a melanoma in a very young age. He was about 48, and so this guy just he was the one taking me everywhere to perform,
Okay.
to every competition until I was then 18, and then when I left, definitely Italy to go to Argentina, and then going back to England, and then going all around the pattern, which I'm not going to tell now because it's going to take too long.
Okay. Regarding nutrition, in the dance world, we hear too often some disturbing stories. What is a positive relationship with food and body issues?
Okay, when I cross my leg, then I have to think about it seriously, but I have to answer now. Okay, well, it's not a legend, let's say so. It's not like a velvet legend that dancers have a very strange relationship with the food. It is true, but it's not with everyone like this. It depends as well of the metabolic. It depends how you're supposed to eat when you're a child, or education. It's very important. That's why if I work as well for important academies where I have sometimes kids, and I see that the nutrition, it must be very important for them as well, because they're growing and their bones and everything. So it's the same with the grown-up professional dancers. They have to give to their body what they give it out through rehearsal, through being there and to be ready and concentrating, because this is 100% brain job. And most of them, sometimes they don't eat enough. This is the problem, because then they think that jumping a repas would be probably a good idea, but it's not if you work on such a level. And some of them have no education, and that's why they think that they can just not eat, or they think that just having water with a piece of bread or no carbs, or just a few vegetables a day it's not enough, guys. It's not enough. I experienced myself where I had to go to dancers in other companies and asking them, what's your nutrition, because you seems to me really very thin and extremely mager, and it's from where you get your power. Then I was very interested, not in an invasive way, just asking, what's your menu? I tell you mine. I love Italian food. I cook lasagne, cannelloni, ripieni. I do pollo ripieno, everything. Well, what do you eat? And then she starts to tell me a few nuts a day with a fig. And then we starts to have a problem.
Okay.
You know? And then that's why I think the nutrition is very important in a career or as a child when you start dancing, that you really know what you can eat. And you can even have bread. Maybe not every day, 1 kilo of bread, 1 pound, but you can have a slice of bread if you work so hard. And then giving vitamins to your body is very important. But don't jump your lunch. Don't jump your dinner. Take breakfast. You need it.
Yeah.
That's all. I did my career this way. Sometimes I was one pound more, sometimes 1 pound less. What the heck? Holy moly. I mean, that's the way we are. We are every day different. So if you don't fit into your costume, you have to open up a bit more into the bag. That's it.
Very good advice there. Which show gave you the biggest impression after all these years?
Oh, that's hard to answer, honestly, because I usually go very often and see other performances, other productions.
But was there like one like mind-opening moment, you know, like that gave something?
Yeah, I think there was a concert in Wien from Max Richter, and he was presenting the 4 seasons from Vivaldi all rearranged. That was for me the biggest thing I saw in the last years, or because I was there, so we still could. It was 2018, so that was very impressive. That's why, you know, that was one of my projects with the company to present a 4 seasons from Vivaldi in this arrangement. But you know, then we had to stop all of a sudden what we were doing, and but this would be a project for the future.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to talk about economical structure of a new piece. As we are here now with a creator, where does the money goes first when the show when the show is about to start?
Okay.
You know,
First of all, you've got to have the money for the dancers. So I mean, dancers comes first, and it must be a good remuneration, because even but what I really ask sometimes is so impossible. Then my dancers, they have to be well paid. At least when I can, I give even more if it's possible for their work, for their energy, their talent, because it's not given for granted, you know. Secondly, for the technical parts, actually probably comes on the same level. How is possible to realize a show now, not with a low budget, but just trying to make a budget for a show, and then you start to think about the artists first, because this is what makes you the shows on stage. True. Right? And the technicians, and what you really want to have as a costume designer for this show. Yeah, this is as well if you want to have a stage set. If it's very expensive to create, what you're asking for right now, the technician's gonna tell you, look, this costs so and so. So when it's a limited budget, then you can just go for, you know, maybe having a Picasso Bühnenbild for Pulcinella, like I did in Augsburg. Or, you know, having some cult pieces like the shoe of Michael Fokine exposed on stage, and that costs definitely a lot of money, because it's, you know, this is UNESCO Helpkultur, and it was at the time really expensive to bring such a thing, because it was a Stravinsky trilogy. So it was at the same time an exposition in the town where I did this. So we asked this museum if we could have the time being there, the shoes from Fokine, and you know, the stage from Picasso, and that happened, and we were amazingly happy that happened.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Talking or let's stay on the topic of creating a show. Where does the focus lie when you create the show? Are you doing it for the audience, or are you doing it for the needs of the artists, or are you just
It's me.
pushing your vision?
I think it's me first. It comes me first.
Okay.
Like what I really see as a vision. That's why I say me first, not as a selfish way,
No.
but it starts in me. All
course.
this is an input, and then it's a fire, and then burns more, and then you start to have vision. I am a visionaire, and without those, would be impossible to create anything, because you have it's not happening all the time, but most of the time it's there. Sometimes it's gone, and then you have to deal as well with like a kind of an energy that goes inside of you and goes outside of you, and then you're very happy to keep it inside as long as you're doing what you want to do, because it's not there all the time, you know, or you think sometimes it's not there, but it's more than ever there. So you have just to kind of let yourself go, I suppose, in a modus of doesn't matter, just do it, you know, and just feel it right now. Even if I feel not very settled emotionally, but I have to do that now, even if it's uncomfortable. So go out of the comfort zone, very, very much. Like sometimes something, I went into the studio and some things didn't make sense to me. I did it anyway because I felt like I had to do it. And then I went back the day after, and all this became the full vision what I had it. So it is about this, you're letting yourself go, and then it comes back, and then you see clearly. But first, just, you know, give a birth. It's like giving a birth every time and every day and any moment, and then you watch back on your creatures and you try to fit them. Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. It's very
Yeah,
visual.
you know, you have to say, "Are you okay?" And then dancers answers back, "Yes, we are." And I say, I'm starting to talk about those guys in my head right now, because that's the way it is. It's all the facet of you inside there, and then
True.
you know, one tells to the other in the creative moment, don't do this, and the other, okay, and then you know, the pig comes over, and then you have the one that is that this is the creation is always very different. I cannot say what I'm gonna do next time with the dancers, and honestly, I cannot just let myself go, and I take a lot from them.
So it's a very much working process. So,
Yes.
But it's also a gamble then, I guess, when you just start something and you don't know how the dancers will develop, how the
I'm a little
show-
gambler.
Yeah, well,
I suppose I
guess
am.
it's in the job title then.
I
guess.
suppose you gotta be a big gambler in this, in this situation. Then you have to gotta, you know, sell and give, and the dancers gifts from you, gifts from them to you, and then you pick it up, and then it's like a kind of a ping pong the whole day, and exchanging information is about emotionals, because I'm not just telling my dancers do it. I just want to feel, I want to hear the way they feel about it when we're doing it. And then not only like, oh, and then you see when they feel it, you see through the face, you see the moment that they enjoy, that I created for them, and I enjoy myself much more if it happens every time.
True.
Sometimes it's not happening, but I know it's there, and never let it go.
What I'm hearing here now is it should be like in the job title. If anyone out there wants to be a choreographer, you need to be like a people person, because you have to read and be there with the response of your dancers and the whole surrounding. So I guess this.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way we work in our company, it's different probably than other ways, because we talk about everything, and we discuss a lot, and we decide a bit together what we're gonna do, what is the step to go through now. Of course, you know, I suppose that if you're a good leader, you don't slave your people, but you want to make them part of it on the same level you are. Of course, at the end of the day, I am their director, I am their choreographer, but I work very different with my company from other companies. I've seen it, because I'm a dancer when I'm with them, and I don't feel like, I feel like giving them tips. You
True.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this comes from
Evolving together.
Evolving together. Of course, the choreography. I'm very picky on my choreography. It's got to be that way, and I usually don't let them improvise. This is probably something that I have.
Yeah.
And I don't want to let it go. It's just not improvising. And if I ask maybe 1/8 counts to improvise, well, okay, but I have to see if it goes with the rest, or I just let you be and I don't watch at you anymore. And then, but I see if it goes out of the range. I'm the first one to say, look, we'll bring it back. Or so I'm trying to help as well people in the company to become choreographers, because I give them the chance as well very often to improvise, and then from that what they did at the moment, sometimes I pick it up, but only sometimes. It happened until now. I know it's not very good entourage, but what is concerning my work, I'm really very picky about every movement. I'm kind of obsessed, and I can be very pressy and sometimes a bit raspy, but always really kind of respecting everyone. But it's I think every one of us, each choreographer has those moments where you follow a line, but then when you see that it's going over the borders, you bringing it back on the way you know how to do it, and then sometimes it happens, but rarely. Yes.
Fair pay in the industry. How much should we get paid, and is the compensation right?
That's a good question. Of course, this is not right. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes the artists get abused. It's a hard point to talk about it because it's not easy point, definitely. I'm not getting political now or just trying to go in that political directions, but this is a job that it takes us the entire life to be there, and then I think that the remuneration for this job is not good enough. Definitely not. Like Opernhaus. I'm not telling any name now, but I think even there the dancers are not well remunerated for the job they do, because they work from 10 in the morning until 11 in the evening with shows and with kind of maybe 2 hours breaks in between and then 3 hours breaks before the show. So you're the whole day there and you give your soul and you give all your energy, and then you think that the salary each month, it's like not much. You can pay your apartment, you can go out, not very often for dinner, or and then this is kind of a sad reality. But that's reality. It's just people, as I said before, people want fantasy, but they need reality, and reality is that a dancer is struggling with his financial situation because it's not well remunerated. Has never been. I mean, even now hasn't changed. Or I don't know if through this time now has changed. By the time I was at the theater, I was a principal dancer and I was earning more money than a dancer for corps de ballet, which is normal because,
Should be like that, of
it
course.
should be like that. But then I probably was in a better situation compared to my colleagues, that they were earning less money than I did, but I was going on stage and doing much more work than they had to do. So, but still, we're not talking about such a big difference, and it was something bearable, let's say so. But I saw sometimes some colleagues struggling because, they had to stay all day at the theater, and then you have to eat in the restaurant in the theater because you don't have the time to go home, and then you give money out. Or in the evening after the show, you have to eat at the theater because everything else is closed around, and you give money out. So, you have to kind of to know. And most of the dancers lives together in an apartment to try to save money most of the time. Even my dancers did that a couple of times because it's not possible to to achieve and to pay an apartment on your own today with a salary, with a dancer's salary.
Yeah.
And as a freelance dancer, then it's really difficult. I mean, if you get your salary every month from your own theater, then you're very lucky.
Yeah, true.
But as a freelance dancer, or freelance choreographers as well, there is no warranty, and we have to deal every day with the same thing, with the same situation, and so
I can also, I mean, I could imagine that theaters are making use of that also because they are giving you this secure way. So and that's why maybe they also can pay a little bit less. I mean, it's just an opinion where I think maybe they could.
I mean, I could break a lance for the theater because as long as I mean, I work the longest hours I work. I was the lucky guy, and because I was at the right time at the right place, and so I was very lucky to go through all my career without having any gap. Only those 2 years where I was decided to go somewhere else, but I had no gaps, so it was fluently. And that must you gotta be lucky. You gotta be competent. You gotta find the right moment. You gotta be patient. You got to wait, and you learn by waiting. And because I went through a very hard school for being a choreographer as well at the theater where I worked for 10 years because I was then choreographer in residence in a very short time. So I had the 45 dancers company, just hungry, and they want from a young guy a full season, 3 premiere a year. That was a big schooling when you're so early. And then, you just give. Then you just give by the end. And it's all about experience, what you bring with you.
What should happen in the industry? How should we behave to make it perfect?
This is difficult as well question, but I mean, if I say that word, air rebel, it sounds kind of hard, but no, I don't mean rebel is like you should just scream around or do people bad things, but you should just basically rebel for your rights and for what got lost in those, especially in those 2 years. The last time that, yes, I think that we should speak out.
Perfectly. Well said. Now we are coming to actually our last and our signature closing question.
Okay.
If you get the chance to put anything you want on a giant billboard, what would that be?
Okay, that's a very spontaneous question. I will put the planet.
Would you like to leave a message also?
Yeah.
Or just the planet?
No, the place where we live. This is a city, but I would just be a bit more generous and showing our planet here that this belongs to this one where we live. I mean, I think very global. I think the way I run my life is very individual because I'm not put it in any boxes. If people tries to do this, then I tell them no, it's not happening. I'm not in a box. I'm out of those boxes. But so the way I think is a very planet way. I don't think anymore in a small city or in a small environment, but my fantasy goes over the universe, let's say so. And yeah, I would put a picture of our world here and, and to watch it again.
No.
And maybe I would just project something, the world turning around with the solar system. Something that way would very much inspire me. Yeah, I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. So visions comes from space.
Okay, perfectly. Yeah, upcoming shows. Something in the pipeline? Something that we should be aware of?
Well, that's what concerns my company now. We'll wait until 2022.
Okay.
And I'm working on it to start big again. We hope. If it's not gonna happen anything before that, then they're gonna tell us, okay, it's not possible to do it. I mean, right now I don't care very much, but I start to plan and to structure the season again without thinking too much about what might come. And we're right now living this moment where everything could just be shut down again. And then, you know, like that happened already last production. We were ready to go, and then we had to let it go, and all was done. And so this time I'm not stopping myself from planning my life. I just keep on planning, and then what might come, we'll see the way we will have to deal with it, because we have to deal with it. I mean, we cannot just turn around or run away. No, face it. Don't be the problem, be the solution right now. Yeah.
Perfectly ending. I hope you enjoyed the show. This was Velvet Legends. Thank you to Gaetano Posterino.
Yes, I enjoyed it very much, Paul. Thank you very much for such a nice time. Yeah.